Hi, it's Nick Sadler from the Label Machine here. And in today's podcast, we have Vasja Veber, the CBDO and co-founder of Viberate, an analytics platform that helps artists understand their global reach and impact. We talked about practical examples of how you can use the music data to make strategic decisions as a label and as an artist, how you can use the platform as an individual artist to benchmark and use KPIs with other similar artists in your genre, and what percentage of labels are using data these days for A&R and discovering new music to sign. I really enjoyed this one, and I hope you do enjoy it as much as I did recording it.
You're listening to the Label Machine series, a podcast to inspire and help indie record labels and artists to build income streams for their music. I'm Nick Sadler, a music entrepreneur that has helped start and run multiple indie record labels. In this series, I'll be speaking with music industry leaders about their experience and the lessons they learned on how they both market and grow their music income. Welcome to the Label Machine series, where we discuss with our guests how artists and record labels monetize music. Today, we're joined by Vasja Veber, a pioneer in leveraging real-time data to empower musicians and industry professionals. As well as holding a master's degree in marketing, he was also pivotal in managing techno legend UMEK's career for over a decade. Now the CBDO and co-founder of Viberate, his platform provides analytics that help artists understand their music, global reach, and impact. Vasja, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. So can you share a little bit about your journey in the music industry and the founding of Viberate? And also, was I pronouncing your name correctly?
Almost. My name is Vasja Veber, and I'm the co-founder of Viberate Music Analytics. Yeah, the names are a mess always. That's always a big opener when I make calls and conferences. It's always an icebreaker. It's a short lesson about Slavic languages where a J is pronounced as a Y. So that's a short linguistic lesson right here. And that usually goes for all the Slavic languages. But then in terms of vibrate, it's actually pronounced as vibrate, as a vibrating sound. We just put the extra E in the middle to get the domain for $9.99 instead of 40,000, which we later, of course, also bought. But the idea came from rating the vibe. That's why the extra E in the middle, which is silent. Again, second linguistic lesson of the day.
Gotcha. So it's Vasja. That's how I say it.
It's Vasja. Yeah, that was actually for
Vasja. Gotcha. All right. So Vasja, can you, how did you, tell us a little bit about your journey, about, managing UMEK, bringing you up to where you are today?
Yeah. So I started working in the music industry right after I finished my studies. I got my first employment in a local event management agency. So we were doing mostly corporate events, but also weekend events focusing on electronic music. And one of the partners in the company, one of the founding partners was UMEK, world famous techno DJ. And back in the days, I wasn't really into electronic music. So I was mostly listening to rock and metal. And I was actually making fun of electronic music because it wasn't made on real instruments. And then it kind of drew me in. And at the time, UMEK was without a manager. And he said, why don't you guys start managing me? I mean, how difficult could it be? Turns out it's incredibly difficult. But we had a marketing background and managing and marketing most of the time go hand in hand. And the rest you just learn as you go. Yeah, we made a lot of stupid mistakes at the beginning, years on. But we kind of learned the craft. So we're self-taught music managers. The whole team had a lot of informal mentors. So we were working, of course, with talent agencies all across the world. And those are big companies. So we were never afraid to ask questions. Sometimes there were stupid questions, but luckily we had really reasonable people on the other side who helped us a lot along the way. And it was a funny story because UMEK is the biggest music star in the country. We don't have a lot of them, but he's definitely one of them and number one. And I remember before I even met him, he was signing CDs, got a new album released CDs were a thing back in the day, really long way back. And one of my friends, he's a huge fan. Like one of my friends asked me, so can you go buy a CD and have it signed because he's got a big release out? I said, yeah, sure, why not? And I was queuing in the line for like, I don't know, an hour and a half. And I bought a CD and handed it over to him. So he autographed it for me. And that was my first connection with him and with electronic music in general. And then fast forward 4 or 5 years, I was his manager. So yeah, it was a pretty crazy leap. And then I managed him for, I think, 12 years. Yeah, more or less. It was over a decade. And we were showing money that Facebook was a thing. Even MySpace was a pretty big thing for musicians back then. But mostly Facebook ads paid off. Facebook was growing crazy. It was the next big thing after MySpace for musicians. And I remember when they released the live streaming feature, they growth hacked it in a way that every follower of a page got a notification once that page went live with streams. And UMEK had over 3 million followers on Facebook. So when I was there with him on a gig in the middle of the night and I started live streaming with my phone, all 3 million his followers got a notification that UMEK went live. And a couple 100,000 showed up to check the stream. So immediately my phone turned on. I mean,
It just melts.
local media outlets don't have such a huge reach. I had a better reach on my phone than most of the local media outlets here. It was crazy, but we couldn't really figure out the immediate effect of all those actions of advertising, of global tours, releases. So we had a residency in Space Beach alongside Carl Cox, which was huge. We played all the big festivals like Tomorrowland, EDC Las Vegas, all the ultra music festival editions across the world. And it would be nice to see how those big things affect a musician's popularity. So we couldn't find a tool like that. And we just said, let's create one. So we started as a pet project. That was the first version of Viberate. We were only focusing on DJs. We started with 1,000 top DJ profiles that we entered in our database manually. And we were only following some basic metrics, mostly audience. We were counting followers. We didn't even look into engagement. So who has more followers on MySpace, on Google Plus was also, a network that died along the way, and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So this is how we started. And we then said, look, it's already online. Why don't we open it up so anyone could use it for free? And if anyone wants their artists to be tracked, they can just add them into their database. So in about a year and a half, without any advertising, we just out there, we went from 1,000 to 35,000 user-generated profiles. So there was clearly need for data out there. And this was a sign for us that we actually invented something that the industry needs. And from there on, we just went full on startup mode. We went into a local startup accelerator. We were all in our late 30s, beginning of the 40s. We were kind of old for a startup. And we came into the accelerator and there were all those kids in early 20s or teenagers hacking their own little project. When we're walking to the building, most of them thought we were investors, actual startup founders, because we're way too old for that. Yeah, we had to learn all the startup things from scratch. A lot of pitching, a lot of drilling of pitches. But yeah, we kind of nailed our pitch, raised our angel round first stake on the demo day. And then soon after, my wife and I packed our bags and moved to Silicon Valley, San Jose, where the accelerator had their local offices. 4 months, 4 very long months, because we came there with high hopes. And then reality struck in. It's quite easy to be the hot startup in a small country such as Slovenia. We only have 2 million people here. Mm-hmm. But once you come to Silicon Valley, it's like coming to the Olympics. So you're just one of the many. And no one really gives a shit about it. So we were there in our office, typing a bunch of emails, didn't get any replies. And then we just decided one day, let's just rent the car. Let's go pay him a visit, unannounced. So we I think visited like 70 VC offices unannounced. We just walked in. We're all like, we're a big startup from Eastern Europe. And this is our pitch. No one's picking up our phones. So we said, fuck it, let's just go here. And at the beginning, it was super awkward at the beginning. But then we just it kind of became a competition. So one of our co-founders also came over for 2 weeks, and we're kind of competing about who's going to be more innovative in getting our way to whoever's in charge there. So you have to, sometimes you have to get past security. And yeah, we were inventing all kinds of jokes and excuses to get in. In Palo Alto and Sank Hill Road, it's much easier because all the offices are in the ground level. They're all skyscrapers. You just go in. You just go past the reception. But in San Francisco, sometimes the office is in the 20th floor, and you have to get past professional security. So we were making up stuff like, oh, we're super late for this meeting. We have a really important pitch. We're 10 minutes late. We're super nervous. We don't even know how to get up there and play it. And we're very stressed. And they're always there for help. They said, look, I'm down. Everything is going to be okay. We're at a meeting. And we looked it up on Crunchbase, a couple of random names. Yeah, this guy. Oh yeah, he's on a 20th floor. Let me price the number in the list. But yeah, that was one of the.
What did you? So you go just continuing on that story then. So you get up, and there's just going to be this guy who he's not expecting you. He could be in a meeting or you got no idea, right? Like,
yeah.
What would be your next? Like, what was the next move afterwards? Did you just go, hey, and then just say, what happened? Tell me that bit. That's the crunch.
Yeah. So we printed out flyers that had like a 1-pager on it and the QR code that took you to our deck. And we were handing out those. And we said, look, we're just this European startup. We don't have any connections in Silicon Valley. So we said, well, we don't have anything to lose. So we just come over here. And all of them were really positive about it. They said, we really appreciate the old school hustle, because that shows that you're hustlers, that you don't give up. And that's the thing that it's not very common here, because people are just used to write emails. They don't even have the guts to pick up the phone, or let alone come here in person. So yeah, a bunch of them, one of them actually said to his assistant, cancel the next meeting because I want to meet those guys. We sat in the office for like an hour, and he was just making intros to his fellow PCs for us. And she got us a couple of really good meetings. So yeah, it was a really positive experience and a damn good story. But yeah, we ended up with not raising the funds though, because we were way too early. So yeah, we went back to Slovenia and we managed to raise our next couple of rounds here, which finally let us focus on, enabled us to focus on product. Because as a startup at the beginning, you're just focusing on raising funds, which is, I hate this. But you have to have funding if you want to develop the service. So yeah, then finally we got a couple of years time and the runway to fully develop the service. And they were one of the top 3 analytics services in the world. We're catering to basically all aspects of the music industry, from large label, small distributors, artists even. But yeah, quite an interesting path.
Yeah, definitely.
It was a very long answer, right?
No, it is the answer I wanted. So, right. so people listening, they're like, okay, I know this is some sort of analytics program for artists and labels. So for someone that is a bit unfamiliar with the platform, like what does it do and what's its core mission for the music industry?
So yeah, it's the easiest way to explain this is if IMDb and Google Analytics had a child, it was the child within music. So we collect information about artists, about labels, venues, festivals, songs, and then we analyze how successful they are. And we use data from streaming services, social media sites, music stores, even some radio stations, and then every entity, every artist or song gets an analytics profile. So first you can rank, let's say if you're looking for a hot new techno artist besides your big label, you can first filter the artists, so by their main genre, like music, and then by the subgenre, techno. And then you can say, I'm interested in artists who rank below 50,000 because you know that everyone who ranks above is out of your league. And then you can say, show me out of those, show me all the artists who have over 50,000 monthly listeners on Spotify because I want to work with established artists. And then you're going to get a nice chart tailored to your exact needs. And then you just click on those names there on the chart, names of the artists. And then you open up their analytics dashboard. And then you can analyze their Spotify performance. You can check their Apple playlists. You can check how their tracks are doing across different channels like TikTok or Instagram. You can compare them with similar artists. So it's just analyzing the music system, the music ecosystem, find out who to work with. If you're a label, if you're a distributor, or if you're booking events, you can check which artists are popular in your area, in your country or your city even, and then book those acts. So it's a business intelligence tool for the music industry.
And so that's on, I know you've got two kind of pathways when you go in. You've got the one for the artist and music professionals, and then you've also got the, I'm an artist and wanting to use it. And I can see that on the music professional side, I can really see the value there. That, like, it's an easy one. If we're booking someone who is the most popular, if we want to sign someone who's the most popular, right? I can see that as a really use case. But what about the artist? Like what kind of analytics are they getting in? And especially for, your more independent artists that are maybe just like an artist and manager team, how are they using the data to make decisions that ultimately make them either more popular or more money?
Yeah, the main difference between two packages is that the big package, the package for non-creative professionals, as I call them, so those are all the supporting employees like labels, distributors, publishers. That gives you an overview of the entire music industry. So you can check stats for all the artists, for venues, for festivals. Whereas the artist profile gives you access to your own metrics. So you can just look how you as an artist are doing across different channels. And this is based on the market feedback. So, and it's much cheaper. So it's way cheaper. It's $3 a month for artist profile. Because a lot of artists said, look, I really want to use their service. I cannot afford to pay a full subscription. But at the same time, I'm also not interested in how others are doing. I'm only interested in analyzing my own data. So that's why we created that artist plan. And yeah, I mean, artists are interested in how they're doing for all different channels. And the main magic here is that we allow you to compare data from different channels on the same timeline. So you can compare how you're doing on Spotify versus Apple on the same timeline. And you can see the ratios, though, which channel is performing better. You can then adapt marketing strategy. You can see how, if you have something out on Instagram, like you have an album release, you put a lot of stuff on Instagram. Does this directly influence the growth of your audience on Spotify? And yeah, so that's the main difference. A lot of native apps, especially DSPs, they have their native analytics. Yeah, but they show very limited. So I think they show like top 20 playlists. We feature 13 million playlists. So if your song is on any of those 30 million, it's going to pop up in your analytics dashboard. We think that everyone should have access to quality data.
I know. And it's great what it's doing as well. And I just have struggled in the past to go. I can see, the track's doing really well because I can log into my Spotify for artists and I can see it's doing well. It's lots of playlists. Like, okay, well, where should we maybe focus more some meta advertising? Well, we'll just look at the countries that's doing well and we'll narrow it down there. And I've always been like, if I wanted to take things to the next level practically and I was using your tool, how could I do that? Like, have you got any use cases of artists in detail of how they might be doing that, or any unique kind of things you've seen people do?
Yeah. I mean, you already mentioned one of the widely used cases. So which countries to focus on? Each channel you get in the native app, you get some of that information, but we give it cross channel. So you can compare your TikTok audience with your Spotify or Instagram audience, see where the differences are. Usually TikTok audience has a younger target group, more female oriented, whereas, I don't know, Facebook has a pretty old target group. And then you can also check what others are doing. So if you have a group of artists that you consider your competition or you look up to them, so your idols, you can check what they're doing and how that activity is translating into data and the growth. And you can just do whatever they do. But if you mentioned geographic information, so if you want to pitch yourself to a local festival that's, I don't know, in Berlin, Germany, and your data shows that you have 30,000 monthly listeners on Spotify coming out of Berlin, that's a nice data to show to them. So you can say, look, 30,000 listeners are from Berlin. Those are probably people like my music and who are probably going to buy tickets to see me live. And that's an easy stuff. Because this is vice versa. The same thing is when talent bookers are booking a lineup for a festival, they just check which artists are popular in the region and then they contact their booking agent. But also you can use the geographic and demographic data when applying your marketing campaigns. So if you see that you have predominantly female audience aged 18 to 25 years of age coming out of 3 different countries, you can then adapt your marketing budgets to target exactly that target. Because if you're going to target audience globally, it's just going to burn your budget in a couple of hours. But you can really pinpoint those ads in terms of targeting and in terms of content. What I want to push to them.
Well, we all want a fan base of 18 to 25-year-old females.
That's Taylor Swift's audience. Yeah, mostly the TikTok. Also, it really helps. And this is something that I don't think a lot of people realize, is that when they're checking their stats in the native apps like Spotify for artists or Apple for artists, they're close to their old bubble. So they don't know whether a certain information means that you're doing good or doing bad. And you don't have benchmarking options, and we offer benchmarking options. So we always calculate averages. So we will tell you, look, an average artist within your subgenre and your popularity range has a certain KPI between 5 and 20, let's say, and you have 3, so you're below average. And that's really important because I was for this example, so I was in the conference and we're talking about engagement on Instagram. And one of the managers that she called her artist and said, I have really good news for you. You have better engagement on Instagram than Kim Kardashian, which sounded amazing. But if you're an experienced data analyst, it's not so amazing because you know that celebrities with really large, massive numbers of followers have really low engagement rate, because the more followers you have, the lower the engagement percentage. Because if you have 100 million followers and 1 million followers engage with your content, this is quite a different percentage than if you have 2 followers and one of them engages with your content, which basically means that you have 50% engagement rate. So that's why it's so important to look outside of your bubble and always compare your data with others. So if Ed Sheeran's manager calls Ed and says, look, you're doing really great on Spotify, you had 1 million streams yesterday, he's going to get fired immediately because he's got to have a 20 million stream because he's one of the biggest superstars in the world. So 1 million streams for Ed Sheeran is a crappy information. So it means that something's wrong. But 1 million streams for me as an aspiring garage band, it means that I made it. that's such a huge difference. It's really, really important to always put data into context.
I think that benchmarks makes it as a really, really valuable tool. I also know that you, on the artist side, you can very quickly make a mini one-page website, which is very cool. And we're seeing more and more platforms do that, which is a great feature. But also you can pitch your songs to Spotify playlists, which is massive. Like, how can you talk about how the mechanics of that work? Is it like playlist supply where you just got to email them from your emailer, or is it more like a Groove or a Submit hub where they're using an interface to reach out to them?
Yeah, I mean, those services actually specialize in pitching, so we don't compete with those. It's basically just one of the delighters of the artist package. And quite honestly, we haven't put a lot of focus on it recently because those services you mentioned are doing an excellent job here. But yeah, so we're actually reaching out to playlist editors, encouraging them to sign up for the service and to open up the communication channels so people can pitch their songs to them. Sometimes we just use their email, or if they sign up, you can pitch them through a form. But it's actually not such a big part of our service. It's kind of outside of our main focus, which has always been data. So we want to focus more on data.
So going back to data, you obviously get to have a very good overview of what's working. Is there any particular trends that you can share that might shed some light on where people should be, what kind of marketing tactics they could have? Like, yeah, well, we've noticed if you do this certain thing on TikTok, this thing happens on Spotify, or is there anything you've sort of been able to glean, from the last couple of years of having access to all of this?
I mean, not exactly, because we're not looking for those big macro patterns. First of all, we don't have clients that would have very specific brief in that particular direction. They have even more specific requests. But those big shifts usually happen between different channels. So as I mentioned, we started with MySpace. Then there was a big shift, Facebook, then from Facebook to Instagram, then from Instagram to TikTok. A generation switch. Also, you can see by looking at large amounts of data how first the engagement moves to the next big thing, and then a small group first moves on Instagram to TikTok, and start engaging heavily with one another there, or with the artist, and then slowly the whole audience from one network to another. So I'm sure if you go to Facebook today, just get a bunch of Cammy pages and a bunch of grandmas sharing photos of flowers. I always make fun of my mom loves to do that. And then they just engage with each other. So it kind of became, if you're talking about generations, I always say that Facebook is the network for boomers. Then Gen X has Twitter. Millennials have Instagram, and Gen Z has TikTok. And the data actually confirms pretty much more or less this hypothesis. But in terms of patterns, it depends on the genre, mostly on the genre. So when I was talking about the demographics, I put Taylor Swift as an example. So yeah, she's got predominantly female, younger audience. Mm-hmm. But then when you go to a techno artists usually have a slightly older audience, and it's 5% male audience. So it depends. There's no general rule of different correlations. And also, I mean, a techno artist cannot do a lot on Instagram because hardcore techno fans don't really like to use Instagram, but they pay money to get access to music through Spotify. And then hip artists are more dominant on YouTube because they have shy, wingy videos. And then what else? Yeah, I mean, a lot of young people consume music through YouTube because it's free. But yeah, I mean, well, see, those are things that people generally know. We can just prove those hypotheses with underlying data.
Yeah, gotcha. So, rather than looking at trends, is there any a particular success story you can mention around an artist or label that, was able to use your service and then, it significantly impacted their growth or their campaigns and what they were doing?
I mean, not from the artist perspective, because I always say to artists, your only task is to be there, to be present,
to
make sure your channels are connected. And then as you grow, people are going to notice it. I mean, if you're not growing, if not generating data, if your trends are not pointing up, then there's nothing that we can do for you. But sometimes artists aren't even going to sign up to open a profile, and that's completely their fault. And it takes like 5 minutes. If you're not already in the database, there's a big chance you're already in. If you're not, it takes like 5 minutes to enter all your credentials, all your official links to your channels, and then we're going to verify it after 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're there. And then if you blow up on YouTube, rest assured that people are going to find out. So success stories are more on the other side. So how
tell me about the labels then. Yeah.
How labels discover artists. Back when we started, A&Rs were pretty reluctant to use such platforms. They say they still some of the old school A&Rs still say to me that, yeah, it's still a thing. I have to like the music. I have to like the artist. I have to like what I'm hearing. Whereas younger A&Rs don't even use headphones when they're scouting from the artists. They're just looking at data. It was like 50-50, the ratio between listening to music and looking to data. It was like 50-50 5 years ago. Now it's more like 90-10 in data's favor. Although they're not going to admit it, never. I tried it and I was in New York for Indie Week, and I challenged the panelists, asking them what the ratio is. And I said, look, I think it's 90-10. Now you tell me. And I said, no. I mean, yeah, of course you do. But if you really like the tune, but the artist is really unknown, they don't have any social media channels, they don't upload their songs to streaming services, they're not going to sign them, because labels now became more reactive. Back in the day, they're really proactive. So the A&Rs went out on a Saturday night to a local bar, and they saw a really good band, and they got their way backstage and offered them a deal. And then they started investing in the music, promoting them, organizing tours, bringing out flyers, doing CDs and vinyls. Today, a lot of labels are just waiting for something to blow up, catch them on data services, reach out to them, and then offer them a big fat advance. And this is how they get it. And then, of course, yeah, they offer their services, they offer the promotion, but first the artists have to do their homework in terms of promotion. So they have not just have to be artists, they have to be artists and good marketers as well. If you're just producing good music, there are a lot of unknown, awesome musicians who just want to make music, and they don't really care about being really popular. But yeah, if you want to make a living from music, then you have to do the first couple of steps yourself, because no label's going to want to work with you unless you prove that you can grow your audience.
No, I completely agree. And, and it's so easy to make good music now. You do have to have the data, or you do have to be a marketer. It is the unfortunate reality. You have to be a marketer and a musician these days, or at least partner up with somebody who's going to be taking care of that for you, whether it be a manager or band member, because, there's just, in the independent sector, there's just not the money there used to be, and you can't take those risks anymore. And, that's a big thing with the label machine, like use the record label model to get yourself set up so you get noticed. So therefore you will get signed and you will get a big fat check. But yeah, I think the someone discovering you at a gig is just, not really going to happen these days. So I know you've got a degree in marketing, so I kind of wanted to put you to the test with your degree and some of your real world experience. So I'm going to paint a scenario for you. And so I ask a lot of my guests this to sort of see how you would approach this. So you've got a young indie artist, you've got a $3,000 budget to promote a self-releasing artist on their own label. They've got about 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and they've got a combined social media audience of 25,000 across Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. The catch is they're a non-performing artists, so they just make very catchy dance music. So I know you've got lots of experience with that. How would you go about spending your budget to grow their fans and monetize their music in the next 6 months in 2024?
Oh, that's a really challenging question. Yeah, I had the privilege of working with already an established act, and I along this fell out. You can see it's my head blowing up. I mean, it's not nothing, because the numbers that you told me are actually 10,000 monthly listeners isn't bad at all. But the problem is, non-performing artists are hard to grow, because obviously they have their fan base, but if not performing, it's hard to get a fan base out in an event, maybe to call a couple of labels or to record a video and send it to them. So that's out of the question, not performing. But I mean, definitely what I would do is, talking from my data perspective, not a management perspective. It's been a long time since I was managing. I would definitely show those numbers around. So wave for those numbers. Get on a data analytics page, play your profile, screenshot the best performing stats. Everybody from every industry is bragging with their numbers. So if you run a website that has a lot of visitors, you go to go screenshot your visitor numbers and you send it to advertisers. Same thing as with music. So if you have a growing trend, if you have 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, if you're growing, those 10,000 monthly listeners are probably generating tens of thousands of streams, which is money. So I would use that data to pitch to a couple of labels. 3,000 euros of marketing budget isn't going to get you anywhere if you spend it online. That's for sure. So I would spend that money, go to a couple of conferences and just meet people there. Artists don't do enough of this. You have Indie Week in New York, which is a great event. I just returned from there a few years ago. You have AD in Amsterdam for electronic music artists, where I'm at Pizza.
Yep.
You have Music Biz and Natural. Those are all conferences that have special pricing for artists, for indie artists. So it's pretty affordable. Just go there, go to as many networking events as possible. They're really nice. Get a couple of beers, meet a couple of people, and this is how you can hustle yourself and put you. I prefer the human touch always. So I do most of the travel for a company, because that makes a whole difference. If you just throw the 3,000 euros into Google ads or promote your music on Instagram, you're just going to donate that money to Zuck, and he's got enough money. And there's not going to be a lot of effect from there, but there's no guarantee. So maybe you're going to have to rinse and repeat a couple of times. But if you don't try, you're definitely not going to make it. Unless you're really, really lucky and, I don't know, Scooter Brown notices you on YouTube as he noticed Justin Bieber. But I wouldn't bet on that.
So that's interesting. So really, first of all, your thing would be saying, if you've got a single and you want to use it in a budget to promote, what would be your minimum budget you would be happy to go in with then?
In terms of budget, like promotional budget, or I don't think I understand the question.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, what would be your promotional budget that you could spend across doing paid ads, doing PR, and maybe making content?
I don't think I'm the right person for that.
How long is a piece of string question?
Yeah, I mean, when I was managing, I was mostly taking care of non-promotional stuff. So I was taking care of touring, strategic deals, finance, mostly working with promoters. But as I said, that was there was a next level already, because we didn't need to promote the artist to make him popular, because he was already insanely popular. So, but we were investing money into social media advertising, but it was just It was mostly for branding purposes. But yeah, we would do a lot of merch that we gave away for free. But again, that's different, because if you want to keep the artists at the level where they are, then it's a completely different game than if you want to make the artist from scratch. Making and breaking the artist is a huge challenge, because we analyze 1 million artists, and taking out of that group is quite a challenge. It was much easier back in the days when you actually had to, I don't know, buy vinyls to be a DJ, or work through the summer to buy your guitar and some studio hours. Not a lot of people did that. So it took a lot of effort to become a musician, but to really make it, it was never easy, but it was easier than now. As you said, it's much easier to make music now than in the 80s and 70s. So yeah, I mean, I would, when artists ask me what my advice would be, I always take the old school way. So hang out with people, make friends in the music industry. It's a surprisingly a very small industry. I go to, I don't know, 10 industry events a year. They're all the same faces everywhere you go. We all know each other. So you just have to do a couple of events and just repeat them every time. And you get to know a couple of people. They're going to introduce you to a couple more. And this is how you build a circle. And you're out there meeting people. That's probably, I would say that's the way to go.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. It's exactly how I got my break. I just went out to the gigs and kept hanging out until I got in. Went to after parties and exchanged numbers and had beers and don't be a dick.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, there are not a lot of dicks in the music industry. I got to be honest. It's one of the most pleasant industries to be in. I cannot imagine working in banking or insurance. And
I think
it's just, you go to, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think else it was interesting that you brought up a point about if you've got someone that's at the beginning and that you want to grow as you do have to be out there. They have to be a performing artist. Like, so I guess in your case, you would say, well, look, my advice is start performing and then we can work together. Because if you're not going to perform, it's going to make everything so much harder. Yeah. Yeah. I can totally see that. And it's what I encourage people to do. And also that, the Label Machine members who've, have got their labels as well. You do see them slowly over time signing more acts that are performing acts, not just producing acts, because it's just so much easier with it. Okay. So what are some other things? Yeah. I mean, I know we sort of talked about trends, but, especially around analytics, we've got AI on the horizon. What predictions do you see with how that's going to integrate with what you guys are doing at the company in the future?
Oh yeah. I mean, we've been OpenAI's clients, high-paying clients for quite a while now. So right behind my back there, we have our AI team. So their best friend is ChatGPT. They really know it inside out. And at first we started using it to help us clean our data. So because when you analyze an artist, you want to have all their data pointed to one single profile. And this is what makes Viberate unique. So in the entire competition of music data analytics companies, we're the only ones. We're actually maintaining the data integrity on the highest possible level. So if you go to Viberate, if you type in the name of your favorite artist, you're only gonna get one result back. But if you go to other services, or even on Spotify, if you type in Jay-Z, you're going to get like 50 different hits. Maybe he changed distributors, he got a different ID, or he made a collaboration and that collaboration got a different ID. So we collect all that data, we break it down, we join it together. But at the end, if you go to Viberate, you type in Jay-Z, you're going to have one act and all the data that he generated, regardless of if it were a collaboration or a standalone work, is in there in that one single profile. And that sounds like something, I mean, of course it has to be that. But in reality, that means you have to work with different data sets from different sources. Apple has different IDs for artists than Spotify. Instagram has a third standard. So there's some standardization like ISRC or ISNI, but it's not ideal. So you have to, when you get those sources, you have to say, so this ID on Apple equals this ID on Spotify. This goes for artists. And so, yeah, sometimes it requires human intervention. So we used to have 120 database curators who helped us populate a consolidated database. But now when we're using AI, we only have 2. Everything else is done by AI.
Wow.
Lots of data cleaning operations. So that was a huge leap forward. It streamlined our business quite significantly. And now we're working on a couple of use cases, a couple of MVPs, where you could actually ask ChatGPT about the most popular alternative rock bands in Helsinki. And then you get a list. You're going to get a list and a list of arguments why they're the most popular. But we still have a long way to go. So this is kind of a pioneering AI work that we're doing right now.
Mm. Oh, it's so exciting though.
People are super lazy in the music industry. They just want answers immediately. Every time I get on a call with someone who's gone into new talent, they ask me, well, can your service tell me who's the next Coldplay? And my answer is always, if we had that ability to answer such simple questions, we would have a label right now, a very successful one. The hot upcoming act. But yeah, it takes more than that. So we can point you to the right direction, but you have to pave your own way there. So yeah, that's people just want to talk with chatbot and expect immediate answers that are absolutely 100% correct. And that's never going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, there has to be work behind it. It's like, or who should I don't know. There's lots of information out there. Like, you need to get on all the big publications. Everyone knows what the big publications are. Rolling Stones. I could just send you an email list. Well, then the process to get in there, get them supporting you, all that kind of stuff. It's that's the other part of the business. All right. I'm just checking in with time. So yeah, I think, was there anything else I wanted to? No, I was going to ask you about some sort of common pitfalls, but you answered that earlier. Where can anybody listening find out more about you and the company? If they want to follow you, where's the best place to follow you?
I'm the only person in the world with such a name, so it's quite easy to find me. So you type in Vasja Veber, just one hit. That's actually that's how we do business here at Viberate. You search for a name, get one hit. Same goes for us. So yeah. It's quite easy to find a link. I'm quite active there, so I post all the updates about the service, about other conference experiences. I do lots of conferences. I do lots of panels and keynotes, because this is how we also, as I suggest this for artists, same goes for business. If you want to grow a business, you got to be there. You got to show your face. So yeah, I could be. People can meet me on all the major conferences across the world. Hit me up on LinkedIn, and always happy to chat.
Yeah, wicked. And if you want to go to the website, it's viberate.com, viberate.com. It is the most cost-effective analytics company out there. Just go to the website and see the prices. And there are other services out there. There's not a lot of them, but if you can see what matches up, this is the one that's a little bit of a no-brainer to sign up to. And like Vasja said as well, as an artist, it's just $3 a day, $3 a week, is $3 a month, $3 a month. Yeah. I mean, it's a no-brainer as well. You should definitely sign up and get that. Yeah. Thanks again for your time today. And yeah, and thank you for those people listening in for today as well.
For having me.